Now that we're down to the last 10 games of the regular season, are you starting to look at where you're at in the play standings a little more quickly and possible matchups?
Behind the scenes, not possible matchups.
Or
I'm not looking at possible matchups. I'm looking behind the scenes at the standings, just like probably everybody within our program is. I think there's a positive in that, and that hopefully that's lots more of that to come, of looking at standings and believing that, hey, this is where we're headed, and this is where, if we do this, we're going to finish here, versus the last couple of years where we kind of knew where we were going to finish. More importantly, Kevin, I think we're thinking about, if we're playing hockey properly and doing things our way, there's not a building in our league or not a team in our league that we're afraid of playing. We want to finish these last 10 games strong, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to do it day to day. Our challenge yesterday was to cut this past weekend loose and go back to work, and I think our guys did that. Now, we'll find out come Friday, but today's practice was good, so that was 2 good ones, and we'll go back to work tomorrow.
When you say cut it loose, what do you mean?
Well, I think something like that, there's been a little bit of positive momentum. There's been a little bit of positive talk, a little bit of positive, excitement and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden we go on the road to a very difficult place. Actually, to 2 very difficult places with Kalamazoo and Miami back to back, and now we've lost 3 in a row. And quite honestly, we haven't played very well. I look at last weekend as a weekend that with the Union weekend are probably the 2 worst weekends of our year. Even the sweep against Ferris, I don't think we played poor. Those games could have went either way, and anyone that was even in the vicinity of the building knows that. So that's more concerning to me, is the way we played this past weekend. So I wanted to know yesterday, where are we? Where are we as a team? Are you guys worried about that? Are you mad? Are you indifferent? You better not be indifferent. You better be somewhat upset with how we played and willing to put it in the rearview mirror and go back to work. Because we want to do that even when we win. We wanted to we beat Michigan at Michigan on Tuesday. We wanted to put that aside and worry about the next day. But it's easier to do that when you feel good about what's going on and your result was positive. So that's what I mean. Are we going to be able to cut loose that last weekend in the last 3 games? We get back to the confines of the BGSU Ice Arena and hopefully pick up where the momentum left off the last time we played at home in terms of the crowd and the buzz in the building. And our guys have to be ready to play like we would any other game, which means we have to let go of last weekend and leave it there.
Was there a particular area that concerns you most last weekend?
Yeah, our fight, our competition level wasn't very strong. And that's something that we've made a staple. There was times, John, where I thought we were scared. We were scared to succeed. Not necessarily physically scared of who we were playing against, but just not right, just not in the moment, not looking at it as an opportunity to beat a team was number 6 in the country. This week they're number 4. Yeah, it's a hard place to play. So what? So is Yost, so is Lawson, so is this, that, and we let it get to us. And it looked that way in our game. We didn't get to our game hardly at all. And the funny thing is, the best period of our weekend was probably the first period Friday night, in hindsight. And it instead of carrying on into a good game Friday and whatever, maybe a good weekend, it was the beginning of 2 more poor periods and then 3 poor periods Saturday. So that is the part that concerns me. The areas of the game, well, they're all areas, but I think it's based on our mental approach more than our physical. The special teams, quite honestly, if you want to get specific, on the ice, the special teams were just awful. And that's something that we've struggled with since we've got to Bowling Green. And it's something that has to change. And I don't mean change for 4 weeks. I mean change for the season. I'll take a positive 4 weeks or a positive 6 weeks over being bad all the time, but we need to find a way to be way more consistent on the special teams.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can you just talk about the physical, I guess, play of Bowling Green in general? I know it seemed like maybe this past weekend was a rough weekend overall, but it just seemed like Miami was just taking out forwards in their own end. It just sort of was one-upping us physically.
Yeah, again, you guys have seen the games when we've gone against physical teams or big teams, and we've done just fine, whether it be, I think Niagara is a physical team, and they play extremely hard. We went nose to nose with them. Notre Dame was a physical team. We beat them. Michigan can be, and we kind of took Michigan's will away that night to play. Normally we're the team doing that, and then the execution sometimes isn't great, or maybe our overall talent level isn't as good as the other team, but we're the physical ones. We're the ones competing. This past weekend, it's not who we are. It's just not who we are. We didn't, and maybe it's a tribute to them, but you go back to the first period Friday night, we gave a little taste of what we can be, and then that went away. And we got caught up in the momentum, and it hurt us versus who cares? We gave up a power play goal. So what? Well, that cost us we couldn't get it back after they scored that goal the first shift of the second period on Friday. And I'm not sure why. So our physical play is normally fine. It's something we want to take pride in, the compete, the intensity. And Miami was better at it than we were this weekend, whatever the reason was.
When I asked about the last 10 games earlier, I said playoff matchups. I meant to say, are you looking at what you have to do to get home ice?
Yeah, absolutely. But basically that comes down to win games, and then you go back to the next one. There's a process for us to win games and stuff. So we haven't talked about it as a team. On Monday morning we said, when we're asking where are we in this, are we feeling sorry for ourselves to the point where it's going to ruin the rest of the year? We've got 10 games left, 5 at home, 5 on the road. And we kind of talked about those opponents and maybe those buildings and whatever, and we all came to the same conclusion that we cannot let 3 poor games or a bad weekend this past weekend ruin what started off a pretty good second half, or the last 10 games that shouldn't have anything to do with anything. We've got another opportunity, and the way the guys have reacted the last couple of days, I think they've been able to do that. But we have to rely on Carpenter, Watala, Hammond, Wallace, these older guys to make sure they're leading the way in that.
When you talk about physical play, Lake Superior's got a big team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some coaches around our league, and they maybe a little bit of a throwback Lake Superior team, which we all know how successful they were. They defend extremely well. Their goaltending is strong, and they compete. They dig in and compete. So guess what? They're going to be games like, I'm not saying they compete any harder or any less, but they will compete. They're coming off a bad weekend where, they didn't get what they were looking for at Ohio State. I'm expecting it to be a very similar series to what a Ferris series, or, it's going to be hard to find ice. Every puck is going to be contested. The difference between them and the Ferris is just the size. They're a bigger bunch. But again, there's going to be chances both ways. We have to defend. We have to find a way to be the positive of the special teams. It's a team where I think we kind of match up fine in terms of on paper. They've got better results than we do overall. But, we're expecting it to be a good, hard-fought series.
And they're also bringing a really good power play.
Yeah, again, I know where the power play starts. Like Dominic Bernardo is one of their top players. He's a senior. I know that I think McParlin is another guy who's a senior. Those are their 2 top scorers, and they're guys that lead the way in the power play. So then you go back to, you got to be disciplined with your emotions and the way you play, and then you have to take advantage of the opportunities on the special teams. And you got to kill off penalties. You got to score in your power play opportunities, just like any other weekend. And right now, the last 3 games, we've been on the negative side of those things. We got to find a way.
Coach, based on where you've been the last couple of weeks and these last 3 games, let's call it, and knowing that you're on home ice and all the things you've got going for you, does this turn it into, I mean, I hate to say must
Yeah.
win, but that's where I'm driving.
Yeah. I sure hope, John, it's not long until it's a must-win type of thing. You know what I mean? Because that's what I want our expectations to be. I don't know if I'm a huge believer in the statement "must-win," because what happens if you don't? We still have 8 games left. Do we go away? Do we stop playing? Of course not. It's a big weekend for us. I mean, it's a big weekend. We haven't put ourselves in these situations very much before. The last couple of years in particular. So I really am anxious to see how our guys respond. And if the first 2 weeks of practice, or first 2 days of practice this week are any indication, we're going to be just fine. We're going to be in 2 tough battles, like I said. I want our guys to feel a little bit of pressure. I want our guys to feel a little, because the last 2 home games we've played, on paper we were outmatched, right? And we won. And some people could say, well, Niagara's the number 17 team in the country, and you beat them. So I'm not saying by any means is the perception that Lake Superior's not a good team. They swept Union. They've swept Northern at home. They had a great year. They're a team that we match up fine against, and we have to be ready to go. And we have the advantage of playing at home. So I don't like the must win, but I like the expectations that come from a statement like that, and I hope our guys are looking at it that way.
I would think it has to be exciting to kind of get a chance to, if nothing else, take a temperature check.
Absolutely.
On your
absolutely. And a year ago we weren't talking about standings, we weren't talking about must wins, we weren't, because we were headed to a certain finish in the standings. We knew that. We don't know that now. We can make some pretty serious noise in our league standings with a good 10-game stretch here, which starts this weekend. So I think it's a good place for us to be, and I want to be here. I want us to be in these weekends more often than not in the future, where this is maybe for first place, or this is where we want to be. I remember someone just said to me they can't wait for the next home hockey game. Well, it's only a couple days away now, so that's a good thing. I want that to be the thought and the buzz and the expectations around our hockey program. So I think it's all positive, regardless of the results this weekend coming up. What we're talking about is positive stuff. That means we're going in the right direction.
How do you compare Ryan Carpenter to where he's at now as opposed to where he was last season? How would you compare?
More polished to his game. Ryan Carpenter coming out of juniors would have been described as a guy that, he may play on the front of the net or your power play, but he's not going to be a point guy. He's going to be a guy that is hard to play against every night. Don't know if he's going to be a winger or a center. There's days where you look at Ryan Carpenter and you say he's a pretty darn good player, and he's playing center, and he's got little hockey plays. He can sauce pucks, and I think there's just more polish to his game. Without losing what made him different, that work ethic, that battle level. Ryan, we all know Ryan's not a guy that runs a lot of people over, but a lot of puck battles, if he doesn't come out with it, then it doesn't happen very often where he doesn't come out with the puck. So I think the things that people may have questioned, and I don't think he's going to be a point guy necessarily at the next level, but I think he's a guy that is really, really good at the power forward type stuff down below the offensive top of the circles. He's a man amongst boys most times. And there's some polish to him. He can make little hockey plays. He can put pucks to space. He can do things that a skill guy does. And that's what I think is different.
Are you good on injuries outside of Jake?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then Mingo and DeSalvo were fine at forgetting.
Yeah, they're fine. Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
You guys good?
Yep.
All right, Bruce, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
We talked to Coach, and the word must win came out of my mouth, and he wasn't a big fan of that, but understands kind of the expectation. So let's start out that route. I mean, knowing what you guys are playing for and home ice and all those things, how much does this weekend become must win?
Well, I think when you look at it, these games down the stretch, each one becomes more important just because you're trying to build momentum heading forward and into the playoffs. And obviously, seeing what we did last year, we know how important that can be. And just kind of, this is a place to start where after this weekend, we didn't really have our best weekend, and it's something to kind of put behind us, and now gives us another opportunity to kind of get going on the right track again.
How you mentioned last weekend, how important is it to kind of get that in the rearview mirror?
Well, I mean, we showed signs of what we can do when we're playing the right way, and the fact that we didn't carry that through 60 minutes both nights is disappointing. But you know, we know what we need to do to get back to that level, the level we were playing at before. And you know, I think each day in practice this week kind of starts there, and from there, just building up towards Friday to be ready to play our Friday night.
From what you've seen in practice so far, are guys putting last week and the last few games behind?
Absolutely. I think for most of us, we feel as if there's a certain level of redemption that we have to kind of earn back after having a disappointing weekend. And obviously, when you're disappointed with the results that we had, you're gonna work a little bit harder. And I think we've seen that so far this week in just 2 practices so far.
I hate to use the word exciting because I'd like to hear how you would describe being at this point in the season, a few games left in this season, and knowing that you've got stuff to play for.
Yeah, I mean we always play for pride, but knowing that there's standing implications. You know what? It's something that's different for us, but you know, it is exciting. It's good knowing that Friday night it really means something, and the fact that we still have an opportunity to host a home playoff game is something. It's a great opportunity for us and something I haven't been able to experience. So obviously that's kind of the goal right now.
And would you talk as an upperclassman getting to experience that for the first time? I mean, the emotion there.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be able to experience as much as you can in your 4 years, and for most players, I think a home playoff series would mean quite a bit, and for myself, it's no different. And I mean, we've had a lot of fans that have stuck through us through the not so great times, and I mean the players have as well, and we really haven't been rewarded with the home playoff series so far, in my time here at least. And so if we can get that in at least my last year, it'd be a special feeling, and it'd be nice to see those fans and the rest of us get rewarded for that, the hard work.
Individually, you've been on a pretty good roll since the first game at Michigan. What do you like about your game?
I've been happy with the way I've been playing for the most part since pretty well Michigan and Alaska, since a little bit before break, and I think there's been a lot more control to my game. I've simplified everything, and there hasn't been as many goals that I'd like to have back lately. I think I've just been more consistent overall from start to finish in most of the games we've been playing lately.
How do you compare the way you're playing now to the way you played late last year?
Similar, I think. You know what? Mentally it's about the same spot, but I think I've improved over the last year from kind of just technique and performance ability on that standpoint. I think I've gotten better since last year, and kind of my frame of mind's the same kind of thing as last year, so I feel good about where my game is right now.
Are you almost in favor of the heavy workload as opposed to taking a Saturday night off, just to keep things rolling from one night to the next?
Well, I think I just like playing every game, and it's difficult watching, and you know, it's something that I kind of got used to last year, playing a number of games, and so I think you know, I just feel more comfortable when I start playing quite a bit. You get into a routine and a groove, and that's kind of when you look at goalies in whether it's the National Hockey League or wherever, when they start getting in a routine and a groove, that's when they start playing their best hockey. So I think right now I feel like I'm in a little bit of a routine right now, and just kind of hoping to stay with that.
You guys good?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.